You're listening to Parasearch Radio. News, views and reviews from the world of the paranormal from across the UK and beyond. Find us on Facebook, Twitter and the World Wide Web. The views and opinions expressed by presenters and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Parasearch Radio or their affiliates and sponsors. Listener discretion is advised.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Paranormal Concept Show. I'm your host, Paul Rook, and as always, we are joined by the lovely Kerry Greenaway. Hello, Kerry.
Hello, love. All right.
Yeah, not too bad. Haven't seen you for ages.
You know what? It feels like months.
It does, doesn't it?
If anybody doesn't know, I was out investigating with Paul and Richard and Lucy on Saturday evening, as well as a lot of my friends. So it was good fun, weren't it?
It was. It was really good to meet some of your friends and family and, work with them as well, because as you said, some of them haven't ever done anything like this before. So, were they sceptical when they came in?
I don't think they knew quite what to make of it, because they know obviously that I'm heavily into the paranormal, obviously doing the radio and the spiritual with the work I do privately and stuff like that. So I think they sort of weren't sure what to expect, but they are, I would say they were more believers than non-believers.
Okay, it was just quite amusing how at the beginning of the night they were all like happy, smiley and all jolly and everything, and then when they get down to the investigation and experiments, they were like, what the hell have we let ourselves in for?
Yeah, because we literally was just doing the walk around and straight away we went into it, didn't we? And there was like none of that. Yeah. There's a little bit of preamble with Sue, bless her. But I'd sort of said, if we are investigating, I know what I'm like. I'm bound to take over. Because that's what I'm like, everybody, a control freak. And but bless her.
Months ago, and Kerry didn't know anything about it whatsoever until she turned up. And after we had this conversation with you privately, and you said, whatever team I'm going with, I'm taking over. I thought, result, that's fine. We could put you in a group all on your own, and then everyone else can do their own thing. And I even said to Sue, the event manager for me, I said, put me in Kerry's group if you need me to go with someone. And I'll go with Kerry, because Kerry's going to take over and run with it.
I know, but I had a feeling, we're talking about premonitions tonight, but I did kind of call it, didn't I? And I was sitting there before we went on the event. I went, Paul, I know what they're like. If they're going to go to anybody, they're probably going to come to you. And you played it so deadpan that, and even on the night, they put up a post like saying that they were at the cinema. And I was so sure. I even took my paranormal kit with me. Like when we talk about my paranormal kit, it's all crystals and, various bits and bobs to do, all spiritual stuff. And I'd actually packed that and took it with me. And I didn't know if I'd need it or not, because I didn't know what I was going to do. But I'd even done that because I was that sure I'd be investigating somewhere. And it was great fun actually getting back out in the field. I need to do more of that because I really enjoyed it.
Absolutely, and it did show you was like literally bouncing off the walls. It was good to see.
And that wasn't on sweet stuff either.
No, actually not.
It was really good. But they were. One thing I will say highlighted for me though was like, it's so different when you've got people who, and no disrespect to my friends there, no idea what to do. So like when we was trying to do EVP sessions or when we was trying to do experiments, be quiet. That's a key point. You've got to be quiet.
They done really well, and I think they all enjoyed it, didn't they?
Oh, they loved it. They did. I don't think they'll do it again. But they did enjoy it. One of my friends turned around and she goes, "It was so lovely to see you in your element." And I thought, oh gosh, yeah. That was one thing that was said. It was lovely to see you in your element. But I felt rusty. That's one thing I will say is I felt quite rusty doing it. Yeah. So,
to be fair.
Yeah, because it had been a long time. It had been about 2 years, I think, since I'd investigated. So
I've been out on more investigations anyway, so it's not a problem.
Yeah, it's good. Enjoyed it.
So, yeah, Premonitions. That's what we're going to discuss tonight. I mean, I'm going to be speaking from a personal perspective because I do experience premonitions. But I don't know if you've done research on it because I've not had anything via email from you today.
I've not had time, to be fair. I have looked into it, obviously. And obviously, talking about this particular topic, it's one that comes up under various guises. I mean, like when we did the Titanic show and, when we've done other shows, the premonition factor comes in. But we wanted to look at this in a little bit more because you have had personal experiences with premonitions. So tell me a little bit about your experiences with them.
Okay. I tend to get feelings that I'm needed in various places because I've got medical training. I tend to get these feelings that I need to take a different route from my normal everyday routes. Then I will find someone that is injured in whatever way possible, and I get to deal with them there and then. There was a couple of instances. I live in Basildon, and you've got like a bus station which leads into the shopping centre. Normally I just stick to the ground floor as I cut through, but this particular day something just said to me, "No, you need to go up upstairs, go that way instead." So that's what I've done. And up there was an old guy. He'd fallen over and grabbed hold of the handrail and possibly dislocated his shoulder. And there was 2 security guys there, and they said like they called him an ambulance. He was quite distressed. And I said, "Well, look, I work for a private ambulance service. I'm quite happy to give him a quick examination here and there." So I had a poke and a prod, and I said, "Look, I don't think it's dislocated. I just think you've just badly bruised it. You're fine. You got full movement in it, and blah blah blah." And I basically said to them, "Cancel the ambulance. It's not needed. He can go home." And then there's been other times where I've been present at road traffic collisions. Again, same sort of thing. It's literally it's not like a premonition that I get daily or in the morning. It could happen like 10-15 minutes beforehand, and just it's just enough to make me change my daily routine to go and deal with these people. And it is literally this is why I believe in destiny, because St. John has been prevalent in my life from right at the beginning, because I went to a preschool and that was a St. John preschool. Then I went to a scout group and they were affiliated to St. John Church. Then I joined St. John Ambulance, and there's other stuff in between, and it's all St. John related.
Mm-hmm. It does seem to be for you, doesn't it? I mean, we've talked about this before, and even from a really young age, St. John's has been quite integral through your entire life, hasn't it?
Absolutely, and it all started with the preschool that I was in. It was a St. John preschool. So yeah, it's just always been there and almost guided me through life to get the medical training. And now I'm walking along the streets and I find these people that have these accidents left, right and centre, and I'm first on scene to give them the emergency aid they need, which I don't do either.
Well, that is your forte. And when you are dealing with somebody who's got a condition, you almost know what it is without being dramatic. How can I put that? You get a sense of what it is, whether or not it's something that needs... It could be not necessarily giving off the symptoms of something more serious, but you have that feeling, you have that intuitive sense, don't you, of what is wrong with that person.
Absolutely, and I think it's all down to training, because with diagnosing, it's a case of asking the right questions and piecing things together, and it is a little bit of a murder mystery type thing. Once you put pieces together, you actually have a very good idea of what it is. And because I'm in St. John, I'm also covered by their insurance to do public first aid, and also we're also covered by the Good Samaritan Act. But I can use my St. John training to diagnose up to a point and then say, well, okay, I don't think it's worthy of going to hospital, we can make that call. But we can only advise the patient. If they still are adamant they want to go to the hospital, then they go. We just say, well, I don't think it's worth it, but if that's what you want to do, go for it. But we can also quite easily turn around to them and say, well, look, we don't think you need to go to the hospital, but go home, take some painkillers, get some rest. If you still feel like that in 24 hours, go to see your GP.
But you've also had it the flip side of that as well, where someone's underplayed their symptoms and gone, no, I'm fine. And you're like, no, actually, I think you really do need to go in. I think this is more serious than you're thinking. And it's that intuitiveness that you embrace within that. And, like you said before, where you've changed tracks to go a different way because there's been an act, not that you knew that, but you just happened to be in the right place at the right time because of that twist of fate that made you feel that you needed to go that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this happened one Christmas, actually, quite a few years ago now. I normally used to go and get my money religiously at 10 o'clock every Friday, I think it was, at the post office. So I used to go down 10 o'clock, but something told me, no, do you know what, just don't do it now, go later. So I decided I've just picked 2 o'clock at random, we'll go at 2 o'clock instead. So as I was walking down the road, there was like a island in the middle of the road, and a mother and her 10-year-old son walked across to the middle and went to start going across to the other side of the road, and a white van just swapped lanes and went to the wrong side of the island and just clipped the mother and the child. I witnessed that, and I dealt with both patients. The 10-year-old was worse off than the mother. The mother was in shock. But as I was dealing with that, a patient transport ambulance came by just at that time. So they pulled over. So we got both of them into the ambulance, sat them down and treated them for just minor shock and grazes and stuff. But they were both okay. But obviously they had to call a paramedic as well just to give them a once over. But I worked with that patient transport ambulance man, and we both got them seen to fairly quickly, and on the way they went. So this happened literally just right outside their house as well, so they didn't have to go far. But because we was there, we was able to deal with it. It could have ended up a lot worse if they were just left laying in the street. So yeah, I mean, I get this all the time.
There is such a thing, though, right? Because I had to look into this a little bit further, as you know me, because I'm like that, and I wanted to see is it a thing? Now we do have inbuilt systems within ourselves. We've got the fright, flight, or freeze, things going on, and we also have something called the unconscious pattern recognition, which is where we're picking up on signals that are surrounding us without us actually being aware of them. So it's almost like we can call a situation based on patterns and recognising certain traits or body languages or, slight inflections of tone before something actually becomes apparent. So it's not necessarily a psychic ability or an intuitive ability. It can actually come from your psychology. And we are actually able to, and it's only a small amount, pick up things before they happen. Now, it doesn't necessarily make it psychic, although I do have a belief in psi ability and psychic abilities in this way. But there is bits of our brain that do pick up things before they happen, which makes it absolutely fascinating.
It does, and it does pretty much is precognition, isn't it?
Well, precognition is something that is well known. I mean, there's so many famous cases of what people class as precognition. And even some massive events. I mean, Barry, on the previous show with Neil and Jane, was just talking about Chris Fleming, who had picked up on an earthquake that happened in America 2 or 3 days before it happened, and had put it out there. When he gets these premonitions, or whatever you'd like to class them as, he puts them out there on Instagram. They're out there then. So if then something happens, it sort of like backs his ability up as it were, to pick things up. And he picked up this earthquake 2 or 3 days before it happened. Now, is he picking up something from... Where is he picking it up from is interesting, isn't it? Is it picking him up from the minute changes that are going on within the earth? And that's what he's tuning into to be able to call something like that, because he's honed his own skill, enough.
It would make sense that, I mean, there's got to be some initial build-up for an earthquake to then, like, sort of erupt into the what it actually does. So, yeah, I would have thought, even the mild vibrations that he could be picking up on.
Possibly. I mean, as I say, we're just discussing theories and concepts with this one. But even on something like 9/11, that was actually being picked up. An anomaly was actually being picked up on the random number generators before the event happened. So there was spikes in I need to look into random number generators a little more, because I don't really understand the term, because it's random, right? But there were anomalies being picked up before that mass event. So is it, and I was thinking about this earlier, once somebody's made a decision to do something, whether it be one person making a decision that will cause a massive ripple through the normal reality, as we call it, like, so take 9/11, the people that perpetrated that, they made that decision way before the actual event happened, because there was obviously planning that had to happen to do it. So that decision then gets made. Is that then put out into the conscious or the unconscious collective that people then pick up on, and the number generators then pick up on? So that's why people get precognitive or premonitions about an event.
Could be. It sounds very possible, doesn't it?
Once that conscious decision is made by somebody. I mean, I was reading one earlier on, which was absolutely fascinating. Because this was one I hadn't come across before. And it was about Sharon Tate. Now, we all know Sharon Tate, pregnant lady who got murdered by Charles Manson and the Manson family. She got stabbed, didn't she? She actually had a premonition that this was going to happen. And her premonition was seeing a ghostly figure with his throat cut in the house where she was living. And she kept seeing this, and she just got this horrible, horrible feeling that something bad was going to happen in the house. She told loads of people about this before it happened, and then obviously that's what happened to her. And they're saying that was precognitive. Now, obviously, the decision was made. Was it a ghostly premonition warning her that something was going to happen, or was it something she was picking up because the decision had been made to do that? Whether or not the cult was actually aware of it, Charles Manson might have made that conscious decision. We'll never know. It's something you can't...
Yeah. It sounds like whatever spirit there was trying to warn her. So it wasn't... I wouldn't have classed that as a premonition, but more of a spiritual warning that it's going to happen.
Yeah, possibly. But she had that massive foreboding, though, that this was what that was. So... Yeah. Who knows? But so that was one I'd not really come across before when I was looking into premonitions. It's a fascinating thing. But so would you say déjà vu comes into premonitions, where you feel like you've been somewhere and you've been there before, but you haven't?
No, I think that would be more, I think, past life, possibly. More of a proof of past lives, because it's the past. You're not predicting the future or having that premonition that something's going to happen in future. The deja vu, I think, is more past related. You've been there before, sort of thing. That's the thing that we all say. So it could even be something like a past life memory coming to the forefront.
If you've got this ability in your brain to pick up things before they happen, like the phone ringing or something like that, is your brain working quicker than your conscious ability to process it? So it feels like you've been there before, but you haven't. Your brain is just saying, it's that because your brain is working quicker than your consciousness is picking up on it. Believe it or not, that's why you can sense the telephone's going to ring, because
that could be, providing it was just like momentarily.
Mm.
You know, so if you're talking a matter of a second rather than weeks and months.
Yeah, you're not talking a lot with deja vu, are you? Because it's literally you walk into the building and think, oh, I've been here before. Or you meet somebody and you think, oh, I've met you before. Or your phone, you think, oh, the phone's going to ring, and then the phone rings. Or you think, oh, I'll just text so-and-so, and then they've texted you literally just at the point where you picked your phone up. Or you think of a song, and then that song comes on the radio. These are small, quick turnaround things, aren't they?
They're pretty much quite common, those. I think a lot of people experience those.
So is that down to how your brain works, or is that down to premonition or precognizant?
I think maybe I would put that down to precog, but then to be fair, I've not studied the brain, so I wouldn't know how that would... I mean, would it be possible that the brain can work quicker than the consciousness?
Or is it just coincidence?
Yeah. It's what I think it's too common to be just coincidence.
Well, we've talked about coincidences and coinky dinks and sinky sinks, as we call them on Parasearch Radio. And, you know, Barry was saying you look for signs, they start appearing. The more you tune in, the more these things happen. He was getting a lot of things through dreams, and precognitive dreams or premonition dreams are very common as well, aren't they? Where you dream something's going to happen and then it happens.
Yeah. That did when I was younger, but I've got no recollection of them, so I wouldn't be able to recite what happened.
Mm. I know, the dream thing, they say you should write a dream diary, don't they, so you can... Because dreams are very bizarre in their own right. They say that they're a window to the subconscious, but maybe they are a window to something a little bit more.
Well, yeah, I mean, I did read something quite recently, actually, that said when you dream, you go into a different dimension type place.
There is something to do with, I believe it's the North American shamans, South American shamans who do something called dream walking. And there's only very few people that can do this, where they actually... We talk about lucid dreaming or you know, where a dream is so vivid you feel like it's real, you know, that kind of dream. But where you actually are able to control the dream in a conscious manner, it's called dream walking, and you're able to connect on a completely different level to what you would normally. It's very hard to explain it, but you literally step into the dream rather than just going to sleep and the dream happening. You're the one that says, right, I'm going to do whatever it is in my dream and interact. And if something happens to you in that state, it happens to you in the physical reality state. You know what I mean?
Isn't it?
Pardon?
It's a bit like The Matrix.
Yeah. You always like to go to a film, don't you?
Well, it makes it easy to explain if you use film terminologies.
This is true. This is true. I don't watch them much, so it's wasted on me.
Yeah.
But when we was looking at the Mandela effect, that came in, didn't it? That matrix in and that blip in the matrix that you can manipulate it.
Yeah, I mean, there are still things that go on with the whole Mandela effect, that people still bring it up every now and again, and it's like, I don't think so. I personally don't believe in it, but it is an interesting concept, though. I'll give it that.
It is fascinating. It is a fascinating concept, because when you are dreaming, they say that prophetic or premonition dreams are particularly vivid, and they don't seem to apply to your normal life. When you think about how you dream, you will be dreaming like, you can generally go, oh yeah, I know that happened, and it's all muddled up, and you know, it's sorting out what I call the day-to-day, and it's sort of storing it away. It's your brain's way of storage, filing system, dreaming generally. But when you have something particularly vivid that's not related at all to your life, that's when they say it is important to record it, because that becomes a prophetic dream or a premonition dream.
See, I don't personally remember any of my dreams. the second I wake up, my memory is wiped, and I can't recall any of my dreams.
I think it depends. So I do have very vivid dreams on occasions, but I wouldn't say necessarily that any of them have been prophetic or premonition. Thinking about it, I can't remember of an incident where it came in a dream, but I do get incredibly vivid dreams. But then I think sometimes people have to understand their emotional state in regards to things. I think if you're particularly anxious or fearful about something, that's a different scenario, because then your psychology is picking up on your fight, flight or freeze kind of thing, and it's trying to make sense of how to deal with that situation in the best way possible for your survival. You know, that's the point of that inbred genealogy thing, you know, for humans. That is something that you have to be aware of, because we are hardwired in that ability. You know, everybody has this. We are going back to pattern recognition. These signals come to you, they get mixed in with your other thoughts, and then you may not even be aware you're getting premonitions or things, because you think, oh, I knew that because of that, or I knew this because of this. But actually, I've called many situations before they've happened. It is that pattern recognition of previous behaviour patterns I've seen before, or am I actually having a precognizant premonition about a situation that's going to happen? I mean, I have to say, when I first met my partner, he was going to take me out for a meal. I called the restaurant and I'd only just met him. How did I do that? I don't know. I didn't know where he goes, what he likes. It was the first date. But I knew the restaurant.
So with you, you're quite a spiritual person, and you know, although you don't like to call yourself a medium, you can do the things mediums do.
That's true.
So could you be getting the messages to say that's what you're doing? Chill out, don't stress.
Quite possibly. I don't know. I mean, I think the more you meditate and work in a spiritual way, you do open yourself more up for those things. You see signs, you see symbols, you see things that are relevant, that have meaning to you. I mean, I don't know about Saturday. No, you're right. I don't, Daryl. You know, I do think you can pick up on certain things before they happen when you open yourself and you are more spiritual to things. Whether that's... I don't know what that is. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I can't sit here and say, oh, a spirit popped along and told me, or I saw an angel and they told me. But whenever I've asked for a sign, I've got one. I mean, going back to the hummingbird, I really needed a sign that things were going to be okay, things would work out. And I thought about a conversation I'd had with Claire Hinks, and she was asking for a sign, and she put out a flamingo in the UK, right? We're in the UK, so you're not likely to see a flamingo unless you go to a park. And so I was thinking about that, and I was thinking, right, I want a sign. So what's highly unlikely for me to actually see normally? So I picked a hummingbird. So I put it out. I want to see a hummingbird. And in a random conversation on a show, Bear Medicine Walker was sitting there. We've gone slightly off of premonitions really on this one. We're talking about signs and symbols now. But when I was on a show, we just did a pop-up show, and we were just talking, you know, what pop-up shows are like. They're very random. They can go in any direction. We don't have a specific topic, and they go off that way. And she said, oh, my God, there's a hummingbird at my window. And I literally went, pardon? I said, oh, I never see hummingbirds in this area. And I'm like...
So it's the trick with this one. You really did. If you want to pick something that's really rare, you could have said a Bigfoot. Well,
I could have said a Bigfoot. But my newsfeed is generally quite full of Bigfoots, thanks to Jay Lynch. Bodine the Bigfoot.
Yeah, or what about maybe the Loch Ness Monster or something? Something that's fabled to be out there, but no one's ever going to see. A unicorn, that'd take through your garden or something.
But all these things you're talking about, because I deal in the world that I deal in, I'm seeing things about. There was a recent thing with Andy McGrath for talking about the Loch Ness Monster, and it could be what was it? What did he say? It was a sturgeon or a massive eel that was in part of the lake. That's been trending a little while ago. Or with unicorns, I go to work and unicorn is like, it's on everything to do with kids. Do you know what I mean? It's like unicorn blankets and onesies and God knows what else. So I wanted to pick something that was so highly unlikely for it to come to me. So when I asked for that sign and picked the hummingbird, the way it came to me as well was so out of the ordinary and so past coincidence, I would have put it. Yeah. And that's the point, isn't it? But I have to say, I mean, when we was looking at, let's talk a little bit about the Titanic premonition. There was a book written, wasn't there? And it was called The Titan.
Yes, it was a Titan, yeah.
And
a few years before, wasn't it?
Pardon?
A few years before, wasn't it?
That was 3 or 4 years before the Titanic was, even conceived, I think it was, to be fair. But is it coincidence that somebody's had that in their imagination and then put it out there?
No, I don't. I think that would have been a coincidence, to be fair, because I know we've done the show on H. Wells, and he was, in one of his stories, he actually wrote about the atomic bomb.
Yeah. And
splitting the atom before it actually come to fruition. So, it's just a coincidence. Just one of those.
And he was actually classed as a prophet of the future, wasn't he? In his work, when you read some of his work, bearing in mind his work is like late 1800s, and some of what he wrote makes me a little worried now for War of the Worlds, is all I'm going to say, because if he is a prophetic visionary who actually wrote from his visions, it's a little worrying, everybody. Watch out for those men from Mars.
All we got to do is just find some cellars somewhere to bunk down in, and in a few years' time, they'll all be wiped out by the microbes and stuff that's in our water. So we'll be all right. It's the microbes that are going to save our lives.
Yeah, let's hope so, shall we?
Yeah. Well, H.G. Wells said it. That's got to be true, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. But there are loads of premonitions. I mean, when I was looking into this, people do have these premonitions, strong premonitions, not wanting to get on a plane beforehand. There's a famous meme actually that goes around. There's only one person sitting on the plane, and the air stewardess is saying to the bloke, "It's fine, you've got the entire plane to yourself." There was a group of psychics had booked on, and they decided not to fly. But this actually has happened. Ronnie Van Zant was like, wouldn't get on the plane, and he said, when it's your time to go, it's your time to go, and the plane actually crashed, and this was just before he stepped on board this plane. Premonitions of plane crashes are quite prominent if you look into cases to do with premonitions. I don't think I'd want to get on a plane if the person in front of me was saying, "When it's your time to go, it's your time to go, folks."
You've got a backpack on, Never a good sign.
No, never a good sign. And the band vocalist at the time, Joe Billingsley, claimed to actually have a premonition of the plane crash the day before it happened.
Okay.
As well, on that particular case. So, yeah.
Was he on the plane?
Yeah, he was on the plane. That was the Lynn Reid. I don't know how you would say this band's name. Skynyrd plane crash.
Okay, yeah, I know the one you mean.
It's a famous band. I can't say the name. I do apologise to anybody who's a fan of that band. But there's quite a few that died. There were a couple of survivors, but yeah, horrible scenario. But premonitions happened before that happened, so yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I know that it is quite a common occurrence as well. A lot of people do get it. And I always there was another incident I had while I was working at the nightclub. I was at my friend's house, and I said, pick me up to take me to work, because she was at her mum's. And she's like, yeah, right, then I'll ring you when I'm round the corner. So I said, okay. And a bit later, she pulled up outside the house, and I said, give me 1 second, and I'll get all my stuff, and I'll be ready. And I actually spoke to her, and she said, yeah, okay. And I went back in. As I went back in, she rang me, and she was like, I'm round the corner, I'll be 2 minutes, be ready. And I'm like, you're outside now? And she's like, no, I'm not. I said, yeah, you are, I've already spoken to you. And she's like, no, it wasn't me. And then 2 minutes later, she pulled up outside. So that, I don't know, was that a premonition or was that a time slip?
I don't know. See, sometimes you can look at it in 2 or 3 different ways. So is it a perception thing?
Yeah, I think it depends on, as you said, what way you look at it. I always put that down to a very strong premonition. But then when we done the show on time slips, and, you know, when people go through, like, fractures in time, then I thought, well, hang on a minute, it could be that as well.
What, like a loop, you mean? Like a time, like a mini time loop?
Or even, yeah, like just a fracture of the future sort of wafting past, and I got to see into that fracture. I don't know, I really don't know what that was. But, again, when we went to Codner Castle and we had that music come over the phone, you know, we was trying to get our heads around what could have caused that, and even time slips sort of come into the conversation, because was we picking up on a time slip or even a fracture in the time? You know, so we was hearing something that was going on there way back in, like, the year 2000. We just don't know.
No, but isn't that one of the things that makes it so interesting? But that was so clear. That was so clear.
It was, and yeah, I mean, I don't know. It was the other phone was literally in the empty room. There was nothing. There was no, like, radio. No TVs, nothing like that. But it came through like he was in a cinema. It was that clear.
I couldn't quite believe that footage. I was like, I was a little like, if it's too good to be true, then it's, you know what they say, if it's too good to be true.
I think if another paranormal team come to me with that, I'd be like, well, I wasn't there, so I don't know. I can't really comment. But because I was there, I know that other phone was in an empty room. I know what was in that room because I'd sat in there previously. You know, everyone was accounted for. You know, and it is exactly what it is on the video. So I can say that's genuine. Whether or not it is actually paranormal, I don't know, but that's why we're going back in January.
Yeah. Which is the right thing to do, you know, it's exactly the right thing to do. If you get some form of activity you can't explain, go back, see if you can explain it or recreate it. You know, that's the thing. Another famous one, this is quite recent, I say recent, 1966. ABBA fan, it's been a massive anniversary lately. It's a tragic, tragic event where a coal slurry pile became soaked with heavy rainfall, and then the landslide hit the town, killing 28 adults and 116 children. Now, this is where it becomes a little difficult to document premonition, isn't it? Because after the event, a psychiatrist named J.C. Barker actually put a call out for people who'd had a premonition of the event. Now, several people had already said there's danger from this slurry, it's too high, it's not safe. They'd already had a few potholes, sinkholes appear in the top and the sides of this particular slurry pile. So whether or not that, and it didn't hit regulations at the time, they just kept piling stuff on top of it and said, yeah, it'll be fine, it'll be fine, it'll be fine. And it wasn't fine. But the problem with this is post-event, details of premonitions come forward. We saw this in
Yeah.
some cases with the Titanic, with some of the survivors had sort of said, well, I knew that, I had a feeling that was going to happen. So they always seem to be after the event when someone says, yeah, I kind of knew that was going to happen. So it's very difficult to know whether or not it's true precognitiveness or premonition after the event.
I think it would be very hard to document anything like that because there's going to be so many people out there. I mean, even mentally ill people in homes and sanatoriums or whatever. If they can predict something, they would just be brushed aside as being mental, and given more medication. So after the event, if they predicted it, it's just not going to be mentioned, is it? To be fair.
No, and could it be selective attention? If you lived in Aberfan and that was that it's likely that would have happened because of the circumstances, the slurry pile and stuff like that. There was a worry about it before. There had been complaints put to the coal board before, not necessarily in the tragedy that happened, but just the worry of the size of the slurry pile and the town being in such close proximity to it. So could it just be something that is that, it's your attention is on it in the same way as you're thinking of a friend, like, that you haven't spoken to for a while. Your attention, your friends and family are kind of on your mind quite a lot, aren't they? Because they're so close to you. So is it that attention, that selective attention, where your brain is focused on certain things? That's why you feel more intuitive towards them, because you're focused towards it. So would it be something more like that?
See, I think that's a possibility, but then at the same time, with, for example, the slate and everything else, there is obviously a geology issue there. Mm-hmm. So maybe that was something that the locals wanted to bring up, which they did quite rightly, raising concerns. And although it's not dangerous, it might not have been dangerous then, but to our standards now, it would be deemed dangerous because of that incident. Mm-hmm. So some accidents have to happen before we then start studying the geology and saying, well, okay, yeah, that's the same as what happened before. We're going to now deem that dangerous. Mm. So lessons are learned by things like that.
Well, this is true, but it's
the same with earthquakes, for example. Earthquakes go on, and scientists learn so much through the earthquakes. So, I don't know whether they can predict them now or what, but I'm sure there'll come a time one day when they can actually go, well, yeah, we can predict them within a week. So it gives us time to deal with it.
Well, they're doing that with volcanic eruptions, aren't they, more now? They can sort of garner when a volcanic eruption is going to happen. I mean, going back to the Aberfan just quickly, there were cases of like some of the children not wanting to go to school that day, and doing everything they could to not, but they were fine. So the parents were like, no, off you go, which happens every morning, I would say, in my household. But one of the parents of one of the girls who died did say she reported a dream just before the day of her death, the child's death, saying that she dreamt that they went to the school, but there was no school there, that something black had come down all over it. So did she have a precognitive dream? But it's easy to dismiss after the event of saying, well, yeah, that,
But I think that the fact that some of the kids didn't want to go to school, I think that's just a coincidence, because as you said, it happens every day at your house.
Yeah.
It happens everyone's houses all over the country. So I think that's a bit of a coincidence. The fact that she had the dream makes it a little bit more interesting, but I can imagine all those parents holding all their selves responsible.
Oh, totally. I don't think the village ever recovered. I really don't think the village ever recovered from that. And it was absolutely horrendous. I mean, you think how many children lost their lives. It became basically a childless town. And then you had the children that did survive. They had like survival guilt afterwards as well. So absolutely horrendous circumstance, but incredibly interesting when you're looking at precognitive or premonition work.
Yeah, absolutely.
And actually, that's something we were talking about. Once a decision or a conscious decision has been made, we can't use that in regards to that kind of incident, can we? Because no one decided that it would rain so much that the slurry pile would slide on that particular day at that particular time. So we can't use that. That's just natural happenings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no different from the volcanoes or the earthquakes and things like that. They're all natural disasters. Tornadoes are another one.
But are we able then to pick up things from what's happening within the Earth's natural environment? And we're not paying attention enough. As our lifestyles and how humans are evolving, we become so ingrained in our day-to-day lives, we sort of ignore the Earth. You know, our connection to the Earth itself is becoming less and less as time goes on. And the drive to become more environmentally aware, is it that connection that we're losing as to why we're not getting so much? Or we are still picking it up, we're just not paying attention to it?
Yeah, I do think we do take the planet for granted. And I think as more and more time goes on, the less and less connected we are to it, because obviously science has come in and pretty much taken over. I mean, even with predicting earthquakes and volcanic eruptions, it's all science. Science are trying to piece it all together and, you know, see whether or not they can predict it from, you know, the small vibrations right at the beginning. Which, you know, is a good thing. But then, at the same time, if we could have done it naturally, why go with science, if that makes sense?
Yeah. I mean, there have been some very, very famous prophets throughout the years. But generally, when seers or prophets put out predictions or premonitions about things that are going to happen in the future, they're usually worded so strangely that they could relate to several different scenarios that have happened since. I'm thinking, you know, like you say, you know, Nostradamus, you read some of his work, they say, oh, it's predicted this, it's predicted that. Well, it could have predicted several different things, you know, like the World War II he predicted, didn't he? And supposedly the end of the world, which was a few years ago, which didn't kind of happen. Thank the Lord. So, yeah.
I mean, even the Aztecs, wasn't it? Their calendar only went up to 2012. But they said it was more, it wasn't the end of the Earth as such. It was just like the new beginning.
The Age of Awakening.
Which is a bit of
a cop-out. It was supposed to signal the end of that age and then moving on into a new age. And that's not the end of the world. It was just, you know, we enter into a new phase. So yeah, that's what that they've now said that's what that meant, because obviously the world didn't end on that day. That's not why the calendar ended. Maybe they ran out of room.
Yeah, but then if the Earth it did end on that day, they'd go, "Yes, I knew it."
Yeah.
They changed the story. Go, "Oh no! What we meant was it's going to be end of that era and on to a new one." Yeah, okay. That's a story for every eventuality, I reckon.
So, do you think everybody has the ability to have premonition?
I think again, it's a bit like the whole mediumship thing. You know, everyone's got that gift, and it's just whether or not they use it. You know, I've picked up on things myself, but I don't know. I've never learned how to hone that gift, so I don't use it. But every now and again, I'll just get the premonition thing just wins out against my logical brain, and it's just like, you got to do this today. So I'll go and do it and then find someone flat out on the floor.
Mm-hmm. They do say that when you want to tune into your intuition, that you basically is not so much a meditative state, but you actually have to get yourself into a state where there are no distractions. So if you want to start being more intuitive, then start practicing quietening the mind and not be distracted, and actually listen to yourself and what, the signs and symbols and feelings that you're getting.
It's almost like that, but then, I'm just doing my normal everyday stuff, and then I just get this, I don't know, it's not like a voice in the head, just a feeling more, but it's so overwhelming, it just changes my everyday pattern, and then that it sort of takes it over, so it's almost like that part of my brain is just shouting louder than the rest.
So that's a stronger feeling than the day-to-day distractions that are going on. So you're sitting there going, right, I've got this to do today, I've got that to do today, I've got this to do today. And then some part of your brain is going, no, do it this way.
Yeah, that's it, exactly. And I tend to listen to that because I've recognised it before.
Okay.
So off I go and do what I'm supposed to, and then there's be someone flat out on the floor needing my help.
So it's listening to your own personal senses more, listening to what you're saying. Because how many times have we said you've got learn to listen to yourself, because you'll always have the answer. You just may not realise that you've got the answer.
Yeah, that's because I'm always right. Yeah, that works.
Yeah, just quick shout out to the chat room. Good evening, chat room. Paul Rook is the prophet of Basildon, has been said. Love it. You'll take that, yeah?
Yeah, I'll take that. That's fine with me.
Add that to your resume.
Yeah, I am. I'm going to put that up.
The prophet of Basildon. There is a certain skill to it, and learning to listen to your own intuition and learning to listen to your own senses is a skill, I think, that's being lost in the day-to-day babble. You're not given a chance sometimes. Some days it just like I hit the ground running when I wake up eventually, and I don't stop until stupid o'clock time of the morning, and I don't get a chance to listen to it because I'm so caught up with the day-to-day stuff. So it is being mindful to take that time. I've learned over my many years on this planet that I need, within a day, I need some time just shut away in a room, being quiet. Even if it's just thinking about stuff, I need that time, whether it's meditation or, listening to myself or whatever, I need that time within a day just to do that without the multiple distractions of the day-to-day life. And that, for me, I've recognised that I need that for my mental well-being, in all honesty. And since I've started to do that more, and it's a step I had to consciously take at one point, because I was just being overwhelmed by everything, that I needed to take that time out in every single day, and usually it's an hour, where I just am. I'm not reading, I'm not researching, I'm not worrying about a show or my work or my kids or my family. I need that mental well-being time. For me, if I don't get it, then I start recognising my own mental well-being. It deteriorates.
Yeah. And I think that's quite important to do, to be fair. I mean, even St John are doing this new thing with all their members. It's the Mind Wellbeing phone app that you can download. Mm-hmm. And they've done a special deal with the people who own it. So it's like free to all St John members. And they give us a special code and stuff. But that's all meditation. Mm. So after our stressful duties and things like that, we're supposed to once a week do this mindful well-being phone app, and it plays soothing music and talks you through the breathing exercises and just sort of calm yourself down after a busy event.
I think particularly in certain industries where it is a highly emotive situation as people are going into, and I would think the services and places like that that probably suffer the most of having to deal with what they've had to deal with as a job.
Yeah.
It's needful to take that time out, because anxiety can create that. Anxiety is basically energy that's built up within your body that's got nowhere to go.
Yeah.
So it rattles around in your body and it creates high stress situations, which actually triggers a lot of your fight or flight kind of scenario going back to it. There's a lot of links between people saying they had premonitions linked to anxiety and getting the two muddled up, because their body is responding to anxiety or a fear factor that they're not recognising particularly as to what it is, if that makes sense. So you've got all this energy bubbling around inside of you, and it's overwhelming. It becomes overwhelming to you. So taking that time out helps you become more aware, more connected to yourself and what you're feeling, and that allows your intuition and things like premonitions and recognising signs and symbols and actually having that security within yourself to step forward. So that's a key part. And if you start doing that, then things like having premonitions or intuition, you become more connected to yourself, those things will come more naturally. They say that meditation daily is important, and this is one of the reasons why.
Yeah, absolutely. I do recommend it. It's nice and calming anyway. So, yeah. And I think on that bombshell, we've come to the end of the show. So, as we've been talking about premonitions, Kerry, what's coming up in the next week?
Okay, let me see if I can sense what's coming. A very busy week ahead still. Haunted Histories tomorrow night is with Penny G. Morgan, obviously. I am joining her in the studio to talk all about Harwich Redoubt and some of the experiences I had when I investigated that quite a while ago now, and some of the history of that too. Fantastic. We didn't even... the history of that particular location is phenomenal. I think there's a book in that in itself, quite frankly, but really interesting show. And I'm brilliant on it, I would just like to say. So tune in for that one. On Thursday evening, PSH Radio Show with Carl and Sam have got Coyote Christopher Sutton in the studio. He's great. Love a bit of Christopher Sutton, and his name, Coyote Christopher Sutton, is brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant. And then on Friday evening, I can't call this. I have no idea what direction that show will go in. Mark is an anomaly into himself. He can go off in any tangent. Me and Carl are always left open-mouthed at some of the things that come out of that man's gob. So that's what we've got lined up for you for the rest of the week. What are we talking about next week, Paul?
I have no idea. What have we decided?
I don't know.
Next week will be a complete surprise show. No, the event has been raised, but I can't remember off the top of my head. I've got a banging headache at the moment.
We're talking about remote viewing.
Okay, that's fine. We can bash that out of the ballpark.
That's quite an in-depth topic, remote viewing, and covers a lot of different areas, and is actually the amount of conspiracy theory that is surrounding remote viewing. But when you distill it down, the actual cases are absolutely fascinating in regards to psi ability. Absolutely astonishingly interesting subject, that one.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to doing that show, actually. That's why I posted it up, really.
Yeah, you like these little topics, don't you?
Absolutely, yeah. Leads down so many termite mounds, doesn't it?
Oh, it certainly does. Rabbit holes, love. Rabbit holes, not termite mounds.
Rabbit holes.
He's trying to rename it to termite mounds, not rabbit holes. And don't forget, guys, there's not long now to vote on the Higgy Pop Awards. Parasearch Radio is up for an award. We're one of the nominees for Best Paranormal Podcasts. So if you wouldn't mind going over there and casting your vote, hopefully, fingers crossed, you will do that and choose Parasearch Radio as the Best Paranormal Podcast.
Absolutely. And on that note, it's a good night from me.
And it's a good night from me.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to join us for more shows throughout the week. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and the World Wide Web to keep up to date with all the shows right here on Parasearch Radio.